Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. Me, your host, Owen, the channel that brings you your team every single day, guys. And we're going to talk a few different things during this international break. Obviously, we're in an international break. Yes, we are very bored. Yes, we want a return of club football. Yes, we want Rangers back. But unfortunately, at this moment in time, it's all on international football and it's just not interesting, just not exciting. And I'm just genuinely not bothered. So, let's talk a little bit about Rangers. Let's get some more Rangers news out there. Now, yesterday, obviously, we brought you the news about Stephen Davis and his decision to return to playing rather than become part of Philippe Clement's backroom staff. He thanked Philippe Clement for the work that he'd done with him and the input and the advice that he got from Philippe. Obviously, didn't rule out a return to coaching in the future, but at this moment in time, he wants to concentrate on getting back playing. I think that was something that was always going to happen, if I'm being wholly honest about Steve. Stephen Davis did seem to me to be someone who, really wanted to play again. And he had talked, hadn't he, about playing for his country at some point again, but playing for Northern Ireland. And, as to what his future holds at the club level, who knows? But at least that is clear now. Does this mean that Philippe Clement will appoint another coach? There's a possibility, I suppose. He could now go out and look for another coach, another Scottish coach. There's always been talk, hasn't there, about a Rangers man for that coaching staff. There was talk of Neil McCann at one top point, Barry Ferguson as well. There's a number of different names that have been linked with that position, but I'm sure that is one we need to keep an eye on, keep our ears to the ground, and something may develop over the coming weeks and months. Now, this afternoon, Rangers Twitter went into a little bit of meltdown, and it went into a little bit of debate and a little bit of back and forth between groups of fans, and some fans were for this idea and some fans were standfastly against this idea, and it caused a few people to fall out as well, which was incredible. Now, what was that? It was Ryan Kent. Yes, our former player, Mr. Ryan Kent, who obviously left the club this summer for nothing, walked for absolutely zero due to the fact that his contract had expired. Yeah, thanks for that, Ross Wilson. Great move that was. Well done. Ryan Kent obviously went to Fenerbahce in Turkey, which was a little bit of a surprise at the time when that move went through. A lot of talk was about him going to England. He'd been linked with moves to Burnley, to Leeds United, to clubs south of the border. It did seem that rather surprisingly, it wasn't a return to England. It was a move to Turkey. Now, it seems that move to Turkey has kind of gone and soured and become a little bit of a nightmare for Ryan. Ryan Kent, who when he was at Rangers, was part of that 55 season, was phenomenal during the 55 season, wasn't he? Absolutely superb. Last season, he was a bit down tools, had the odd game where he really impressed, but the vast majority of Ryan Kent last year was very unimpressive. And he kind of finished the season sort of injured. So it seemed after he was hooked at half-time during that semi-final against Celtic. Anyway, since he has turned out for Fenerbahce, he's only made 7 appearances in the league. He's made 4 appearances in the Conference League with 1 assist. He also made 3 appearances with a goal and an assist as well in the qualifiers. Now, overall this season, he's had 14 appearances, 1 goal, 2 assists. Very kind of unimpressive figures, from Ryan Kent. If you look at it overall, in terms of the Turkish Super League, he's only been 8% of Fenerbahce's starting 11s. In the Conference League, he's been in 100% of the starting 11, so he has been used in the Conference League, but has not yet really been used in the Super League. Now, it appeared from what was being reported that he was very much been put out for a move away from the club in January, which is, considering he's only just joined there, is a bit of a surprise, isn't it? There was a lot of talk in the media and a lot of reports coming out that Kent would be available on loan in January. Now, this got Rangers Twitter and Rangers social media tongues wagging. It got fans putting 2 and 2 together and possibly getting 5 here. People talking about getting Ryan Kent back on loan in January. Could this be a good move for the club? We haven't got any wingers. we've got Seaman, we've got McCaws, and we've got Matonda, but there's not enough depth there. We need another winger. We never replaced Ryan Kent. What's the answer? Go and get Ryan Kent back. I'm not entirely convinced. I've got to say, I'm not entirely convinced. If I'm being wholly honest on this one, I think it's a bit of media clickbait. I think it's a bit of very lazy journalism. I don't think there's any chance of it happening. The few reasons why I don't think there's any chance of it happening. Number one reason I don't think there's any chance of happening, I cannot see Philippe Clement signing off on this. He just does not seem like a sort of player that Philippe Clement would want. He's not high. Ryan in recent years has not been as hardworking as he has in the past. Has not been as keen to be part of a team and to be put his own ego aside and hasn't done that in recent years. So look, that's one reason why I can't see Clement signing off on it. Number two, it's been talked of and now been counter-rumoured that the president of Fenerbahce has now come out and said that despite what his manager may have said, that there will be nobody leaving until the end of the season. That's another one. Third reason is Ken kind of said goodbye, didn't he? He kind of said that was it. That was the end. Talked about wanting a new challenge, wanting a new chapter in his life. And I can't see him returning back to Rangers. It's like that X, isn't it? You should never go back to the X. That's what they always say. Not always true, though. But a lot of time it is. So, that's another reason. I can't see it coming off. I can't see it happening. Why would we want him back? Yes, he is a decent player, but last couple of seasons he's flattered to deceive. For me, it would be a retrograde step, a backward step going and getting him back again. I think we'd be far better looking across Europe, scouting across South America and trying to find a younger, more up-and-coming talent than Kent, than going and just getting Ryan Kent back. I know why the media reported it. It's a bit of lazy journalism. The rumor comes out, doesn't it, from the Turkish media? We all know how the Turkish media love to make a rumor. They love a rumor, don't they? They love a so-and-so's signing here, so-and-so's coming here, so-and-so's leaving here. The Turkish media love it. And Kent to Rangers is the possible one. Rangers need a winger. Rangers said in the past, I know it's Michael Beale, we've never replaced Ryan Kent. So look, 2 and 2, 5, let's send Kent back to Rangers. Don't think it's going to happen, guys. Don't think it's going to happen. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know your opinions on this. It does seem, from what I've been reading on Twitter, on X or whatever the hell it's called these days, it is a divisive topic. It is a topic that kind of divides the fans. There is a group of fans on social media, and I know that social media is not a great place to go and get opinion. Social media is often a very poisonous place. But, you've got some fans saying, yes, we'd welcome him back. Yes, we want him back. Yes, we'd love to have Ryan Kent back. You've got another group saying, no chance, no way. Not with the way he downed tools last season. Not with the way he played last season. No, he's past his best. And no, we don't want Kent back, and so on and so forth. It certainly seems to be an ongoing debate on Rangers social media. But like I said, I'd love to know your opinions. Okay, so let's talk about a Rangers player who is actually here. Let's talk about Todd Cantwell. Todd has, I think, by his own admissions, and I think by obviously the fans' admissions as well, not had the best of starts to the season. There's been flashes of Todd, flashes of those of what we saw at the end of last season. And I think if you'd sat and you looked at the evidence of the end of last season, you would think that we've got one hell of a player here, a player who's going to rip it up this season, a player who's going to be on a different level this season, and is really going to inspire this team to challenge that lot from across the city and to challenge it in all competitions. I know he got injured against Celtic. I know he's missed a lot of games. I know obviously he needs to rebuild his fitness. And I think part of what we're seeing from Todd at the moment is a lack of sharpness, a lack of match fitness. It takes time. It takes lots and lots of time. I remember listening to a footballer talk about match fitness. He talked about the fact that you can get all the fitness in the world on the training pitch. You can get all your sports fitness, your training fitness, etc. But match sharpness and match fitness can take anything between 4 and 6 games to really bed in and become, second nature. So you don't have to worry about it. It's always there. It is there. When you turn on the afterburners, you go. It's not a case of you press that button and literally nothing happens because you're not yet match sharp. I think we're still looking at a period now where Todd Cantwell is not fully match fit. I don't think he's match sharp. I think he still needs a couple of games. I think the international break is coming at a slightly worse time for him. He would have benefited from playing more games. Now, what was interesting, and I think it was more a rotation, a rest, and not wanting to risk and not wanting to get him injured again. By playing in 90 minutes against Livy. Obviously, McCausland came into the team over Cantwell, got a lot of tongues wagging, got a lot of people saying that maybe that there's a thing that Clement is not a fan of Cantwell, that maybe that Clement doesn't see Cantwell as having a place in this team, given the fact that he's constantly put Lammers at 10, or, he's used Lawrence at 10, and Cantwell, when he's played, has been stuck out wide. Maybe Philippe Clement does see a different role for Todd Cantwell, and I've got no doubts in my mind that Philippe Clement can get the very best out of him. He is a genius. He is the Harry Potter of football managers. He gets his magic stick out, as he said himself. Look at Scott Wright. But for me, to get the best out of Todd Cantwell, to get Todd back to where he was last season, to get Todd back on the same level as he was at the end of last season, you need to put him back in the middle. You need to give him that 10 role. You need to give him that free role. To have him constantly stuck out wide, have him constantly, having to cover out wide on the right or on the left. That is not Todd's game. He's not a winger. He's not a wide player. He's 10. Where he was effective last season, where he was at his very best last season, was when he was given that license to roam, to go and influence the game, to go and create around the box, to then pull out wide when he needed to, not be stuck out wide. I think that's how you get the best out of him. And I think then you're going to see, was that a flash in the pan at the end of last season? Was that not the real Todd Cantwell? Was that just the initial spell? And now we've got our settled in Todd Cantwell. We're going to see what he's really like. Yes, he hasn't been great this season. I admit that. But I do think we can still get the best out of him. And I think, given what Philippe Clement has said as well about the fact that he wants to see players changing positions and interchanging, there could be an interesting dynamic if Tom Lawrence was to play perhaps as a wide man, or in the 8 role, alongside Lundstrom or alongside Jack. An interchange between Cantwell and Lawrence, Lawrence goes, Cantwell drops in to cover him. Lawrence goes out, is out wide, Cantwell's in the middle, and Cantwell goes out wide, Lawrence comes into the middle. It's just variants of points of attack, changing the point of attack, changing the emphasis. It's all stuff that I think Clement does want to work on from what he's been saying. And I think with Tom Lawrence and with Todd Cantwell, you've got two very skillful players, two players who are more than capable of having that flexibility to their shape, that flexibility to their formation, and having the work rate, the effort and the skill and ability over the likes of, say, Sam Lammers, to actually apply that and be successful in games. And obviously, there's still debate over, do we bring back Yanis Hadji? Do we bring back Alex Lowry in January? Or, if we don't, what's their role next season? Or do they not have a role next season? How does Philippe Clement see Yanis Hadji? How does he see Alex Lowry? Alex Lowry, who's been fantastic for Hearts, Yanis Hadji, who's been ripping it up for Alavés. I think there is a real depth of talent in that number 10 spot. Of course, there is an intensity of competition. And look, I'll be honest with you, the more competition you have for a place, the better it is. Todd Cantwell, Tom Lawrence, if you recall Hadji and Lowry, or Hadji, Lowry, Lammers, you've got a lot of depth in that 10 position. And two dogs, one bone. Fittest dog emerges with the bone, doesn't he? That's the way it works. And that's, I think, what Clement wants to see with his squad. Okay, let's finish off by talking this morning about another former player, Glen Kamara. See, Glen Kamara, who was a phenomenal player during 55, was described as a Rolls Royce by former manager Steven Gerrard. Kamara obviously went to Leeds in the summer for a substantial fee, around £5 million. Initially, he didn't get many games for Leeds, and he's been talking to the papers, and he's talked about the fact that his pre-season was up, in his words. And that's what knocked him back in terms of his development and in terms of his game playing. Since the start of the season, since he's kind of got back his match sharpness, since he's got back his fitness, he's represented and played for Leeds 9 times this year with 1 assist. And from what I've seen and what I've heard from Leeds fans, he certainly seems to be back to his best, back to the Glen Kamara of that 55 season. A player that buys himself time, a player that has that ability to pass the ball, a player that has the ability to influence the attack, a player that has the ability to break up an attack. Certainly what we saw during the Europa League run, and in a recent game against Leicester City, who were the runaway leaders at that point, he was the man of the match. He was absolutely fantastic. His tackling, his distribution, his reading of the game, his vision was absolutely spot on. Kamara is a player that Leeds have described now as a Rolls Royce, and many Leeds fans have already fallen in love with Glen Kamara and talked about what a talent he is and how glad they are they've got him. So it does seem that Glen is returning to his best. And look, I've got nothing against Glen Kamara. He didn't play well last season. He only featured in six games for Rangers. Wasn't great in the Viaplay Cup final. Didn't do well in that game. Yes, he played in that Hearts game, which was weird. But I wish him all the best. Of course, I wish him all the best. And he's doing things like he's doing a really good job with Leeds, and Leeds fans do seem to have really taken to Glen Kamara. And we've all got some happy memories of Glen. That goal against Leipzig and the emotional celebration. With the death of Jimmy Bell. He's talked about that. I listened to a recent podcast that he did. He did a podcast with Leeds United, and it's the official Leeds United podcast. If you want, I know we don't really listen to other teams' pods, but if you get a chance, look it up. The Leeds United official podcast, Rolls Royce Kamara. Go and have a listen. He talks about his time at Rangers. He talks about his life growing up in London. He talks about his support for young players and his desire to help young players to come through. And he seems to be getting back and re-falling in love with the game of football and getting back to the Glen Kamara we saw during the 55 season. So, obviously we do wish Glen all the very best at Leeds and really hope that he helps Leeds to get promoted back to the Premier League. I personally would really, really like to see Leeds back where they belong in the Premier League. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. Depends, obviously, when you picked up the video here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. Guys, please smash the sub. Help us to keep on growing. We've added some subs since yesterday. I think we're on 3,670 now or something like that anyway. The 230 to go to get to our target of 4K by the end of the year. So thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, on the way out, two things for me, please. Number one, smash the like. And number two, please always remember, we are the people.